Here's the lineup for the Zurich Chess Challenge 2015. Played between February 13th and the 19th, 2015. I mean, look at this group. Vladimir Kramnik, former world champion. Getting a little bit older, but the guy is still sharper than hell. My buddy from the United States, Karl Nakamura, I believe number 6 now in the world. And Karl just come off a really big win in a really tough open in Gibraltar and played beautifully. Vishy Anand from India, former world champion, just lost his challenge to Magnus Carlsen last year, but they put Vishy out, and he won the candidates tournament to get into the finals against Carlsen and try to get his title back. So Vishy's far from gone. Fabiano Caruana, great player. Had a hell of last year and a half. He's come a long way. He's one of the top players in the world. I believe he's number 2 now, Italian-American. Great player. Levin Aronian from Armenia. Levin's had a tough year or so. He's had a tough time, but I'll tell you what, don't think that he's lost any of his skills, because he's still a great player. And a good guy, too. And Sergei Karjakin, originally from Ukraine, now representing Russia. I haven't seen much of Karjakin lately, but I'll tell you, this guy was one of the top prodigies in the world, and he's still one of the best players in the world. Any one of these guys can win this. It's going to be a great tournament. Stay tuned for the games. Hi folks, John Cordisco here. This is the other game I wanted to show from round 1 of the Zurich Chess Challenge 2015 being played in Zurich, Switzerland. This one's between Levin Aronian from Armenia's white, world-class player, and somebody I haven't seen around in a while, Sergei Karjakin, originally from Ukraine, now playing under the Russian Federation. Interesting game. I'll put it to you this way. The way it turned out, I thought that one player had a really good chance. We'll have to show you what I mean here. It's a semi-Slav. C4, E6, Knight C3. Seen this a couple of million times. E3, Knight to D7, Bishop D3, D takes. You see that a lot. When you move the bishop like that, Black usually takes, making him move the bishop again, so that way you don't pick up a tempo. If he took before the bishop moved off of F1, you just take with the bishop and get a tempo, so that's pretty standard stuff. The B5, chasing the bishop off. Bishop goes back to D3. Now, I like B3, even though the computer likes D3, not by much. Bishop D2 is the computer's second choice, and B3 is last. So being that the third move on the computer is the move I would do, that's why I'm showing chess videos instead of playing in them. Bishop D3, Bishop B7. There's really no point in pushing these pawns up unless you're going to fee and kettle to the bishop and just leave that knight there. E4, B4. Interesting though. I like knight E2 myself and then bring the knight over to G3, but knight A4 is the acceptable computer move. C5, E5. Knight comes up, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, bishop takes, castle. Now, according to the computer here, that's the last book move. Now, that b-pawn for Black's pretty far advanced. We'll see how he does. Karjakin, bishop d7, and Aronian, queen to e2. Queen to b6 for Black. Knight to g5. Now, believe it or not, after h6 for Black, the computer has 0.00. Now, I know this is a line they've all seen. Both of these guys have seen it a million times. The computer thought it was interesting with bishop check. Then after bishop, bishop takes, queen takes. With about a half-point advantage for white in that one. I'm not sure why. Why that one is more advantageous to white than knight to g5. h6, knight d4, rook d8. I mean, there's a lot of play here, but I don't see anything really threatening so far. That black knight on d5 is controlling some really key squares. This one and this one. That bishop would be nice to go there to threaten the queen, but it can't. At least not for now. Queen to f3. Bishop A6. To trade or not to trade? He goes rook to D1 instead. Computer likes bishop takes D3 or castles about the same. Black finally castles. So Karjakin finally got his king castle, and we're on move 19. Queen of G3. Interesting. Queen of G3, Queen of G4, bishop takes H6 is all the same. King to H8. Get out of that. So you can see here, the bishop is hitting the H-pawn. And it can't pull because of the pin on the pawn, so the king has to move. Queen to H3. And interesting enough, the computer shows this move as the #1 move for Karjakin, for black. It also gives it a question mark, which is really strange. King to G8, he moves back. Is that maybe signaling a draw, maybe? And then if he goes the queen back, he just goes back himself. He's offering a draw, basically, on move 21. I don't know. Has either one of them lost their nerve? I'm not really sure. Computer thought that maybe bishop takes was worth looking at. Then bishop takes E4. And believe it or not, black's up 2 pieces, but it's basically an even game. But after king to G8, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Now I think Aronian has something here. It shows about 1.25 points advantage for white, even though he has 2 pieces for a pawn. F5, about the only move he can make. Queen to G6 check, king to H8. Queen to G6, but I think what he should have done instead, and the computer agrees, is knight to G3, and the commentators agreed as well. If Aronian had played knight to G3, bishop C5, queen checks, king, knight, bishop takes check, king to H1, would have been interesting. But after queen H6 check, the king goes back. Basically, black is powerless. He has to go along with it, with the draw, and they agreed to a draw for that. Now, I don't know. I like Levin Aronian a lot. I always have. He's a great player, and he's a decent guy too, which accounts for something as well. And he's had a bad year and a half. He just seems to have lost his nerve now. This is round 1, and he had white. Maybe he's just thinking, I'll get a decent draw, I'll get my feet wet a little bit here, and move on from there. So there you have it, folks. I'm a little shocked, though, that Levin didn't go for it. He's worried about dropping more rating points. But when you start worrying about your rating points, even at guys at my level, and I'm an average player at best, is when you start losing your points. That's just the way it goes. But anyway, there's the other game, or I should say, not the other game, not the only game from round 1, but the only one I'm going to show is this one. And the other Nakamura game with Caruana was great, so if you get a chance to see that, go back and look at the list. Anyway, I want to thank all my new subscribers. I've gotten a lot of views in the last 2 or 3 months, more than I've ever gotten, and I personally appreciate it very much. And as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.